If you are planning a trip to Paris, I am sure top on your list is the Mona Lisa and the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre and the Versailles and the several other attractions that any tourist book or guide will tell you about Paris. But here's a tip I will give you. Paris has some of the most beautiful parks and iconic trees, and I advise that you keep some time during your trip to Paris to visit some of them and soak in this beautiful atmosphere, especially if you're here in spring or autumn. Find out more about the beautiful parks and trees of Paris in this episode of Tree Talk. Once the vast hunting grounds of kings and nobles of France, this vast open space called the Bois de Boulogne in the western end of Paris is an 8.5 square kilometer stretch that is twice the size of Central Park in New York and 3 times the size of Hyde Park in London. That is one of the green lungs of the city of Paris. From open green spaces to thickly wooded ones, from lakes and waterfalls to cycling tracks and picnic spots, this park has something for everyone. The Bois de Boulogne, the woods of Boulogne, is a part of what used to be once an ancient forest with oak trees, which were cut down over time to provide firewood to the army and for Parisians, and most importantly, for the building of ships for the Royal Navy. Yes, Britain and France may have conquered large parts of the world, and they did that by butchering their ancient oak forests, and then when they wiped those out, they turned to the teak forests of India to keep their navy going. Check this episode to know more about that. Coming back to the woods in Paris. In the 19th century, this area became the property of the state and was gifted to the city of Paris. And then came along someone called Baron Haussmann, who transformed it into a spectacular wooded park as you see it today, with waterfalls, lakes, walkways, and plenty of trees: oaks, beeches, limes, cedars, cherry trees, plane trees, chestnuts, redwoods, elms, and plenty more. The park has about 35 kilometers of footpath, 8 kilometers of cycle paths, and 29 kilometers of horse riding trails that weave through patches of forest. It also has rowboats and is great for birding and cycling. Fill your water bottles at the little waterfalls here, take a jog, cycle around. It's a wonderful place to spend the day. At one end of the Bois is a garden called the Jardin de Shakespeare. And if you love trees and literature like me, this is a place you will surely enjoy. Trees in Shakespeare? Well, I'm going to keep a separate episode for that. Stay connected to know more. And as I was walking around this lovely place, I suddenly stopped in my tracks with tears in my eyes because I spotted the most majestic, the most gigantic, awesome, handsome, giant sequoia. One of the oldest, tallest, heaviest, and largest living organisms on Earth. I am standing now before a giant sequoia tree, and I'm sorry if I'm tearing up, but it just makes me want to fall on my knees and look up in wonder and awe. Now, if you don't have too much time and want to catch up on some of these beautiful parks and iconic trees in the heart of the city, here are some other tips I can give you. Situated in the 8th arrondissement of Paris, this park is absolutely gorgeous. I'd say one of the most beautiful ones I saw in Paris. For starters, unlike the typically geometric French garden, this is an English-styled garden, so it is less manicured and more natural. It has expansive lawns, gnarled old trees, winding dirt paths, opening out sometimes into little ponds filled with ducks, other times into Corinthian columns and stone statues, and not to mention very, very old and beautiful trees. Another park I enjoyed visiting so much that I went back a second time to spend more time here was the Parc des Buttes Chaumont. This one is in the 19th arrondissement and was earlier the site of a limestone and gypsum quarry. Transformed completely from what it once used to be, today it is a place for Parisians and visitors to relax, exercise, meditate, and catch some peace. Gentle slopes, water bodies, and many lovely old trees. I saw this beautiful cedar of Lebanon and these gorgeous golden ash trees here, and this incredibly old ginkgo biloba tree here as well. An absolute treat, this place. Another place one can see beautiful trees in Paris is actually a cemetery, and because it was very close to where I was staying, I decided to drop by. It's called the Père Lachaise Cemetery, and despite the fact that it was a cemetery, it was a really beautiful place to walk around. It has the graves of some very famous writers like Oscar Wilde and Proust, but that was not the reason I went there. I went there for the trees. But incidentally, coming from India, it also held a surprise for me. While walking around there, I stumbled upon something. I saw a gravestone which had something written in Gujarati. I stopped and turned and discovered to my astonishment that it was the grave of J.R.D. Tata, India's iconic industrialist. Turns out his mother was French and he happens to be buried here. I absolutely loved walking around this place and the chestnut trees in particular in their golden yellow autumn attire. Absolute treat for the eyes and the soul. Talking of writers, I visited the house of France's most famous writer, Victor Hugo, and the view from his room in this lovely garden called the Place des Vosges, with its gorgeous old horse chestnut trees, pretty nice view to have for a writer shaping his thoughts. The lovely tall horse chestnut trees here, as in many parts of Paris, are beautiful to look up at, and the golden colors of autumn make them even more beautiful. Here's a short glimpse into Paris in autumn. I've linked up this episode below, you can check it out. What I loved about many of these smaller city parks was that it was filled with people taking a stroll, children playing, students out on a field trip. These open spaces are truly alive and buzzing with old and young alike. Not only that, the authority managing parks and trees in Paris clearly does an earnest job because every street tree is given thought and space. Sidewalks are used to plant little gardens, roots of trees are given a chance to breathe. I wish I could say that about my city, Mumbai, where despite complaints, trees suffocate because concrete is so thoughtlessly poured around them. What's more, city parks in Paris have regular ongoing events. Citizens are invited to take an interest in the flora and fauna of the city, participate in greening their neighborhoods. Well, Paris does seem to care for its parks and trees. And if you like to visit gardens with rows of plants with their names pinned up and information put up about them, I'd recommend that you visit the Jardin des Plantes, the botanical garden of Paris located in the 5th arrondissement. You can also visit the Museum of Natural History when you are here. Coming from a tropical environment, most trees of Europe are strangers to me, but after coming here, I learned many of their names and made new friends. It's not natural and dense like some of the other parks, but if neatly laid out rows of trees and shrubs and manicured lawns are your thing, you'll like this. And the Luxombourg Gardens in the heart of the city as well, with its raised terraces and stone statues, expansive lawns and vintage chairs, inviting you silently to enjoy the outdoors. Then, of course, there is the famous Tuilerie Garden, and outside the city, the famed gardens of the Versailles. Personally, I am not a big fan of manicured gardens like these French gardens. Oh, by the way, on this trip, I also learned the difference between French, English, Japanese, and other type of gardens. I'll be covering that in another episode. Do subscribe to stay posted. Like I was saying, I am not a big fan of these manicured, hyper-organized, geometric, well-laid-out gardens. I like parks that are more natural with winding pathways, trees that are not trimmed and shaped, and where human intervention is lesser. But if you like these aristocratic styled French gardens, you should definitely check out the Tuileries Gardens and the gardens at the Versailles. I'd also recommend that you check out this guide created by Amy Kupec, and who runs an Instagram page called Garden Guide Paris, and also runs tours of various trees and parks in Paris. I have linked it up below. You can check it out. So if you're visiting Paris, be sure to add some time for these beautiful parks in your to-do list, and check out some of the other episodes on the channel, share this with friends, and subscribe to stay posted.